All right. Welcome back to the Eye of Stone podcast. Me and Dimitri here, and we have a special guest that will be doing all of the Lord of the Rings movies with us. Our good friend Matt Monument Jones. I just noticed that.
I thought you'd like that.
That's awesome. Welcome to the show, Matt. Officially.
Thank you. Thank you.
For anybody who watches our episodes on Saturdays, I've kind of given you guys some backstory to him coming on the show, but he did a whole 6-hour episode with us, an absolute epic, and we could not post it. Very sad.
Yep.
So
I still think about it, dream about it.
I lose sleep about it, but it's redemption time. My dog's knocking my camera over. All right, everything is as it should be. So we are tackling the Lord of the Rings. We're done with James Bond. It's in our rear window. Lord of the Rings. And fun fact, Dima had never seen these movies prior to doing this, which just warms Matt's heart.
I always know the right way to disappoint him.
Matt, I had no idea, to be fair. I had no idea. I just kind of assumed, like, if you've seen Star Wars, you've seen Lord of the Rings. You know, like, I wouldn't have even have done that poll had I had known.
That's generally the consensus. I mean, you got to think about the time that, Lord of the Rings was coming on track with their films, and like the revitalization of Star Wars and Harry Potter, and there's just so much going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it is hard to believe that somebody's narrow-minded to miss it, but until now. But that's fine. That's fine. You're making up for it. That's all that matters.
Hey, don't worry, man. I've never seen any of the Harry Potters either.
That's all right.
That's okay. That's fine. Which
I actually didn't watch those until all of them until adulthood. So that's whoops.
Yeah, I actually wanted to read off, if it's still in here, our messages when Dima was watching this movie.
Oh God.
All right, I can't find them, but here's the rundown. Dima messages our group chat and says, "So I'm confused about what's going on." And I said, "What do you mean?"
I was like 10 minutes into it.
And he says, "There's a wizard and he's white, but he's a bad guy. And there's a wizard who just flew on a stick, question mark."
That's
and I said, "You watch a movie that has a frog wielding a laser sword, but this is what's pressing your suspension of disbelief."
It was more so the fact that, like, I got over the fact that it was obviously fake, but I was just confused on the storyline and who was who. Like, I knew the dude in the gray was good, but I thought the dude in the white was supposed to be good too, but then he wasn't.
Okay.
And then it got answered.
Did you at least finally realize that was the point?
Yes. Yeah.
Because they have a history together, and he thought he could go confide in him with what's going on. And
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you're literally missing the whole point of what's going on.
Yeah, like you said, finish the movie and then come talk to me. I finished the movie and then I didn't have any more questions.
Well, that's good, Dima. I'm proud of you. All right. So before we get into talking details about the stories, obviously want to get everyone's kind of a general idea of what your thoughts on this movie are. I'm really nervous about Dima's. So out of 5 stones, I give this movie 4.5. Matt, I'll let you go next. We'll wait for Dima's.
I give it a 5. Now, and that is by far saying that the Fellowship of the Ring, as far as the trilogy goes, not including the Hobbit movies,
okay,
but the Fellowship of the Ring is my least favorite out of the 3.
Agreed.
So we'll just
all right. Real quick, I'm going to shoot from the hip here. My favorite is Two Towers.
Same.
Yes. All right.
I am a Rohan man for sure.
Yep. All right. Can't wait to get into that. That's the next movie, Dima.
I thought so. I started watching it right after I finished the other one, or this one.
Oh, so maybe I'll be pleased with your rating.
Yeah, I got about 10 minutes in, and then I was like, I need to stop before it gets too good and I get too invested, and I gotta leave.
Yeah, I already started watching Two Towers just because I couldn't help myself. All right, so what's your out of 5 stones?
It oh my god.
Are
It's
you having a
like
stroke?
yes.
Okay.
It's like probably a 3.5, 4.
What do you mean probably?
It's
I
somewhere
need a
in there.
definite answer.
Yeah, like just give
Like-
us like I don't care if it's a 2, Dima. Just tell me what it is.
Probably like a 3.5.
All right, so 4. That's fine. I
Do you
won't
wanna-
accept anything lower.
All right. Well, Matt, Dima actually had a pretty good idea that we're going to start doing. So after we're done discussing our thoughts on the movies that we talk about, we're going to see if anyone's rating has changed, which
All right.
I can almost like it's almost a 5 for me. And after listening to you talk about it, I might be able to get there.
Okay. All right.
But maybe we can turn Dima up a stone or 2.
It probably didn't help that I was still trying to figure out who was who for the majority of that movie, and I was
That's a
very
personal
distracted.
problem. Don't bring that here.
But I plan on rewatching it now. I understand who is who.
Yeah.
So
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. All right, so thoughts on the story overall. Matt, I want you to take this away.
So let's just clarify here, okay? For anyone who is unfamiliar with Lord of the Rings. So I akin this to the beginning of, in my opinion, the best telling of a high fantasy setting in cinema, like ever, right? So, and the only thing that gets close to being as good is, believe it or not, the Chronicles of Narnia. As far as high fantasy is considered, like we're talking about elves, dwarves,
I agree with
orcs,
that.
like
Yeah.
that, right?
Yep.
It's also essentially like if you watch the Hobbit movies, because chronologically those would come first. If you want to understand some of the background of things in particular,
Mhm.
but like the pipeline in retrospect of the Hobbit to the Lord of the Rings, I think would be like because Tolkien wrote the Hobbit. Hobbit was his first book, and then, or not his first book, but as far as like what we're considering here,
Yeah.
and then like 20 years go by before he writes the Lord of the Rings. That would be like, what's the author of Stuart Little?
Oh,
E.B. White.
yes. Yes.
It'd be like if E.B. White published Stuart Little, waited 20 years, and then slammed down 1,000 pages about how Stuart Little's nephew killed Satan. That's essentially what this is, right? Like I have my gripes
That's
about,
great.
things that are missing, and and it's a movie adaptation. It's good in its own way compared to the books. I think it's on its own level of difference. But like you have to, combine some characters, change some characters, take some stuff out, and that always annoys me about book to movie adaptations. And I mean, I was looking my notes here. I think we missed, as far as content is concerned, that didn't get used. I'd probably say they probably missed maybe half, maybe a little bit more, of small things, right? So like small things, but overall, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
To my understanding, there's a lot more side quests that involve
Yes.
characters that aren't even mentioned in the movie.
Right, yeah, there's and then some characters have bigger roles in the movies than they do in the books. Like take Arwen, for example, Aragorn's romantic interest in the Fellowship of the Ring, or in all the movies, really.
Yeah.
When they're in Rivendell, she shows up for like dinner, and then they get married, and then like that's it. You never really see her anymore. But she's like this badass horse rider and
Thank you.
calling floods of horses, water horses, and to fight the Nazgul and things like that. It's just wild.
Yeah. I'm gonna read you. I'm on Letterbox now. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
I am.
Okay. Actually, Dima's fiance's sister is who got me interested in it. So I got this app, and it's basically just like the ultimate library of movies and what people think about them. You know, you're getting raw, unfiltered thoughts on movies from real people.
It's so much for movie nerds, kind of like us. And her sister is a huge movie nerd.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what it is for. Pretty much kind of like this. They just share their thoughts.
I mean, you know, I've always heard other people I listen to on podcasts and stuff talk about it, but she's the one that sold me. You must really like that drink.
Dude, that was really good.
Do we need to do a cheap plug real quick?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Go ahead.
Fusion 7-Eleven came out with these energy drinks, Fusion, and they're buy one, get one right now. Phenomenal.
Sure.
I have some podcast brought to you by Fusion.
Is that an energy drink? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't do those anymore.
I don't either. I got kind of wild at the working security, and I don't want to do that anymore.
That'll do it.
On it. I'm only down to like one a day though.
That's still.
I mean, like
it's like a cup of coffee though.
320 milligrams is too much for me.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and that's like a basic. Well, they have been toning them down now, but it's still just. Anyways, so here's my review on Letterbox. On Letterbox, they also do 5 stars, so I get 4.5 stars. In a genre of film where not many titles had taken themselves too seriously, Excalibur held the door for Peter Jackson as he asked Star Wars to hold his beer. Taking a 61st century BC Middle Earth and sprinkling it with races and creatures of mystical lore sounds like a disastrous idea for a writer and director. This film is lightning in a bottle, as the masterful storytelling of J.R.R. Tolkien and Peter Jackson's directing style mashed into a masterpiece of cinema and storytelling that set the bar for blockbuster movies and inspired many forms of storytelling and filmmaking that are still utilized to this day. Fellowship of the Ring not only introduces us to a world of massive scale, but somehow finds a way to take the time to make me genuinely care about the many characters we see and give me more than enough to crave the sequels and prequels that follow. So that was my review. And Dima, I mean no insult about Star Wars, but for me, and I think my dad would agree, this movie was like the first Star Wars movie. Because you're just getting introduced into a world that is enriched with history and characters that are already established and you know nothing about.
Yeah.
And it does a great job of kind of introducing you to all of it at once without making you feel overwhelmed.
That's true.
In my opinion.
I agree with that.
Because you get introduced to people, but it's not like they're so pertinent to the story that you like feel like you're robbed of not knowing their background or knowing like so I don't know. I think this movie is like the first Star Wars movie in that sense. And you have 3 movies and then you got 3 prequels.
Okay.
So pretty similar.
We have a show on Amazon now. So
yeah. And it's better than Disney Plus's bullshit. Well, except for Mandalorian. Mandalorian
was terrible.
Yeah.
I was scared where you were going with that.
Didn't even make it to the first episode.
Really?
I tried.
Same.
I couldn't watched every single episode just so the haters can't say, you didn't even watch it. I know what I'm talking about when we dive into that.
All right, Dima, let's get your thoughts on the story of the movie overall.
So I thought the storyline was phenomenal. I really enjoyed the characters. Not to get on the other side of the movie, but the way they filmed everything, I thought, I mean, granted, kind of how I've mentioned in the past, it's an early 2000s movie, so you have to think about that when it comes to the CGI and stuff. But there were times where that CGI looks better than some of the shit that they put out today.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other times where you could tell it was 2001 and I get budget and everything else. So, but when it comes to the storyline, it's phenomenal. I couldn't have asked for a better start to the story and kind of explain a little bit without knowing the back or anything that happened prior or any of the characters prior to that. But there, and it kind of goes into why I gave it a 3.5. And I've been teetering with that in a 4 for the past couple of days now. But there were just some parts of the story and that I felt like were dragging at times.
Like what?
Oh shit. Yeah, I saw this coming.
I'm curious if you've got a gripe that a lot of general audience members have, and that there's a lot of scenes that just show you them traveling.
See, it wasn't so much the traveling. It was more so
okay,
like
because it doesn't bother me, but I've been listening to podcasts and stuff where they talk about it. Like, there's so many scenes where they're just walking or running, and I'm like, in context of the story, it makes perfect sense.
Right. It was more so like, and I can't even think about it. It's kind of when the beginning a little bit, and then like random parts throughout it where I felt like nothing was happening and they're just like chilling. I was like, okay, that's a little slow. It was important to the story, but it just felt a little slow.
And where does that happen, Dima?
Star Wars.
No. Well, yeah, okay, yeah.
I just dogged on your own franchise.
No, I am.
You know what? This is a perfect time to show you guys something I made. You just opened a door, Dima. So this is a little surprise I have for you guys, and I'm going to be making one of these per episode, and not just for Lord of the Rings, but for any franchise Hump Day episode we do. Let me go ahead and take you guys off here so I can make this full screen. I'll take myself off too.
I love that.
I love everything about that.
As soon as he said that, I was like, you literally say in that cartoon, this isn't fucking Star Wars, Dima. So yeah, let me making one of those every episode. Bring back the cartoon a little bit. Dima?
Yes.
We're talking about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so what I was going to say is that happens in the Shire. What you're referring to as the slow part of the movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's why I made it a whole subject in itself.
Gotcha.
Because for you might think it was slow and whatever, but for me, it's just showing off how awesome the Shire is.
Yeah.
Like, I could pull a full 20 at Mordor and then want to go retire at the Shire. Might look out of place, but you know.
Right. I mean, I did enjoy the movie though. I thought everything about it, even the acting. I'm watching some show somewhere, and I'm like, the acting seems, there's parts where it just doesn't feel real. I never felt that once with this movie. Every single one of the actors absolutely sold their role.
Everyone was into their role.
Yes, very much so.
Background characters. I mean, everyone was just so into these movies.
Like the who is the guy? Wow, I'm failing you, Matt. Again.
Character sheet.
Yeah, for
The
your character sheet.
I think it's the orcs.
Did you make that specifically for him?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
I didn't want him to. I didn't want him to feel special, but
what about the orcs?
I thought they were very well designed. Like the special effects with it was absolutely phenomenal. Like they felt frightening just watching it. Yeah. So you could almost feel like the fear with the characters as they were feeling it, which I thought was, again, excellent. So
I want
to change this before the end of the podcast.
I want to focus on the Shire for a second, because one of my favorite scenes in the movie, just because I could relate to it so well, is when they're having the birthday celebration for Bilbo, who is, I think, 111 years old.
111.
Okay. Yeah. So they're doing the celebration. And one thing that's important is we're getting something established right now, and that is that they don't age at all. He looks like he's maybe pushing 60.
So you got to remember, though, that if you look at I'm gonna get ahead of myself here, but like Gollum, okay. Right? So Gollum is like 500 plus years old. That's because the ring brings like prolonged life, so unnaturally long life. So the only reason that Bilbo looks so good at 111 compared to, what he does, once you finish the films, you'll see him compared to how he looks then is just because he had the ring.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I know like elves can live pretty much forever.
Forever. Yeah, dwarves live a relatively long time.
Yeah, because I know also like from the time Frodo gets the ring to where Gandalf comes back from his research trip and is like, you got to get out of here. That's like a 17-year time span.
Yes. Yeah. It's like almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people think like, oh, it's just gone for a couple weeks, maybe a month or two. And it's like, nope, 17 years.
Yeah.
Frodo kept that ring hidden for 17 years.
Dima, to be fair to you, I didn't know that until I did some research on the book.
So this movie technically takes place over like 17 years?
Well, no, I'm telling you just that part where he gets the ring from Gandalf. And then when Gandalf comes back from his little research journey where he was like, oh, shit, he's bad.
Like pouring over scrolls.
Yeah.
Travels to Minas Tirith.
Oh, shit.
Like, that's 17 years.
But in the movie, it can feel like it's a week or something.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. But I didn't mind that because, like Matt said, it makes sense because he also has the ring. But I'm just like, we've already established, like, don't expect that much of an age change, in physical terms. So,
right.
But yeah, the Shire just seems like such a happy place, and it's the perfect, like, we have the classic trope of good versus evil in this movie, but I think the way that they paint that overall picture is masterful because you're just showing us a little village of happy people living their own life, not a care in the world. And then there's just a whole world around them where everyone's worried about all this crap, like rings and evil and kingship.
There's like war going on at this time, like, and I wouldn't, well, maybe not necessarily war, but like Sauron is like amassing armies, like orcs are, slowly picking at the defenses of Osgiliath at the time, and like some of the, westward kingdoms of men, right? Mm-hmm. There's like pockets of skirmishes going on, in this time period. And then if you look at like the broader picture, there's like conflict going on outside of the purview of what you see that's Middle Earth. And like flash over to the Shire and we're just dancing around, drinking ale out of barrels and having big birthday parties and fireworks and all that kinds of stuff. It's truly like separated from like the hardships of Middle Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the Shire just provides that nice contrast to like let you know the severity of the growing threat, because they establish in this time period where Dima says it's boring that things are peaceful and happy here. They don't have a care in the world. Like, what's her name? Mary and Pippin make a firework dragon, and everyone's like, oh, like that's how relaxed their life is. Like they can just be silly, and then all of a sudden you have ring wraiths coming through. And it's like, oh shit, like if it is so bad out there that this is coming into the Shire, then it makes you feel like you got to go out there and stop what's happening. It just, for me, as a person who hasn't read the books or anything, like it really establishes the severity of the threat. Because when things hit home, that's when things are bad. That's, so yeah, I really appreciate the Shire for what it is. Boringness and all, Dima.
Fun fact, your scene with Mary and Pippin and all that in the Shire, that never happens in the book.
Oh, like making the dragon and everything?
Yep.
Yeah.
Never happens. And then their scene where they kind of meet up in the fields, that doesn't happen. Like in the book, Meriadoc is like one of Frodo's closest friends. And he was like very involved in the plans for Frodo, like when he was planning on leaving the Shire.
Wow.
And then Pippin in the books wasn't even considered like an adult by Hobbit standards. But he was like still like respected by his community in the books.
Huh. That's crazy. I wonder. I'm going to get a little off track here, but I actually watched the 1978 animated movie of The Lord of the Rings.
That's so good.
It's so good, but it gets disappointing. And I'll tackle this really quick because the movie doesn't really finish.
No.
And it feels uncomfortably stopped. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Like they just kind of fumbled the ending, and I don't know.
There's a fun scene in that movie where the like motion capture actor that plays Aragorn is like running and his sword and sheath get in between his legs and he actually falls. And they just kept it in. Animated and kept it in.
I think I know what you're talking about. I didn't think anything of it, but
nope. You never do until you know about it.
So fun fact, I reviewed Excalibur on a couple episodes ago, and the director for that originally was going to do the first Lord of the Rings live action movie. Couldn't work it out with the studios and licensing and whatever, so he turned his idea for that into what Excalibur is.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about all that is his idea for Lord of the Rings is what ended up becoming the animated film. So I was watching this thinking like, man, if this had been in live action, it would have been something crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Excalibur already has its own style and everything, and it's a really cool movie. But like, if you had put the Lord of the Rings IP on that, oh my gosh.
Yeah, you got to think too. So like, as far as like studios and franchising and the rights to names and things like that. So the Tolkien estate is so very protective over J.R. Tolkien's work, right? Like you just can't like be like, oh, hey, I'm gonna make up Lord of the Rings movies. Like you've got to get approval from the estate to even like start. Like that's the first thing you have to do. Like it's a little off track, but when before Rings of Power came to be, the Tolkien estate was taking essentially like bids like, hey, we want to do some more, you know, we want to do a TV show essentially. You know, they invited all these studios, you know, Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, Disney, like, hey, come pitch your ideas. Like, well, what would you want to do with a Lord of the Rings TV show? And Netflix was like, hey, we want to do Lord of the Rings, but like the Avengers, right? We want everybody to have their own movie, and like Gandalf is going to be like a superhero essentially. And they were just like, nope, absolutely not. And they were so taken aback by it that they almost scrapped all concepts and just kind of retreated. But Amazon still won the bid for Rings of Power, and it, you know, I have my own gripes about that, but you know, to save that for another episode, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I kind of want to tackle it all at one point because
For sure.
I'm going to be honest with you, Demo. You know, I've been falling off the Star Wars bandwagon. I love The Mandalorian. I have my issues with it too, though. I think that's probably the coolest thing they've done with Star Wars in recent years. But as an adult, I think I appreciate the story and characters in Lord of the Rings more than Star Wars.
Oh wow.
Personally. I don't know, there's just a lot that's put into it that works for me that I can't say the same about Star Wars. So, and that's a realization I've had this time around. Like, I always thought I liked them both equally,
Right.
but I think I'm more leaning towards the Lord of the Rings.
As you should.
And you know, the Hobbit movies aren't as good as these movies, but I think I like them better than the prequels for Star Wars.
Okay.
So, and that's saying a lot because you know that I love Darth Maul and I love Episode 3.
Yep.
But yeah, I think this as an IP in general, I am just more into it. So yeah, that's just a realization I had, and I was like, wow, I'm gonna have to tell Dima I don't think I like Star Wars as much. It's blasphemy.
That's fair.
So what do we think about Frodo as the protagonist? Dima, go ahead and lead this one.
I liked it. He really shows like that kid that not really needs to grow up, but kind of needs to grow up, because when we first see him in the very beginning, he just gives that vibe that he's just there. He's ready to have fun, enjoy life.
He has no responsibilities.
Yeah, he's
True.
a kid. And then by the end of
Hang on. Let me just preface this, okay? Frodo, when he sets out from Bag End, so hang on, let me do a little math, little boy math here. So when the movie starts, right, Frodo's 35. Okay. And so think about, can you get out of here? So think about when, 17 years go by, when between like him getting the ring and Gandalf being gone and whatnot. So Frodo is 52 when he starts his journey to go destroy the ring. So just bear that in mind when you're like, he's a kid, he needs to grow up. Like,
yeah, no, he's like
52 fucking years old. Yeah. He's a grown man.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, grown. No, but like he gives that kid vibe though, where like you said,
well, Elijah Wood's 17 when filming started.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's where you get like that youthfulness from, but also like hobbits are generally youthful, creatures.
And I
think about their environment. Think about, they don't care in the world. Like, anyone's going to look good when they're, 50 years old if all you do is just hang out.
Yeah. But I mean, you can really see his character growth through the movie.
And also he is definitely, you also got to think like the Baggins are rich, right? Like they're insanely rich. So like not a care in the freaking world on his part. He has no reason to. He doesn't work, He's got, he lives in Bag End with his uncle, or for 17 years he lived there by himself, just kind of living that Hobbit bachelor life.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like.
And
I
Dima,
mean, I liked him.
I was gonna say, just wait until you see the other two movies because you haven't seen nothing yet. Like, dude, all I'm gonna say is he definitely has his Anakin Skywalker moment.
Yeah, we'll say that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good way. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
It's just a moment, though. It's just a moment.
yeah. You'll get
don't
your
get worked up about it.
little inkling of Star Wars. Yes, little, but it's good. It's really good. Peter Jackson does this thing where he and Sam Raimi too. He did the Spider-Man movies and all those. It's like a shot where the camera goes into the eye, and that has a lot to do with what I'm talking about.
Okay,
you'll see it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. All right, Matt. I feel like you got something to say about Frodo.
So it's more. So let's just say this: in the Fellowship of the Ring, Frodo is not bad.
Mm-hmm.
He's not bad. He's all right. I mean, you do get kind of these like youthfulness vibes, not, and this is really more for the hobbits in general. There's no big understanding of like the big world, right? Like they have lived in this small corner of the world for a very long time, and so they don't understand, the workings of big folk. And you see that really prevalently when they are when they first go on their quest, and they're, kind of sporadically Scooby-Doo like running away from the ring wraiths before they get to the ferry. And then they get to Bree, and they're causing, ruckuses there. And it's just, they have, like I said, they have no understanding of the big world, and it definitely shows. And it's a tad annoying, but it's fine. It's all right.
Yeah. The thing that I appreciate about Frodo, because I'm not too sure about Elijah Wood personally. I think he definitely has the aesthetic to sell me on the innocence and immaturity of a hobbit at the supposed age he's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the acting, it's a hit or miss for me, but what I do appreciate about the character as it's written is, and honestly, I could say his lack of good acting helps to this as well in a way. It really shows the necessity of all the other characters.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of team up movies where it's like, do you really need all these people? But everyone feels important in some way. Sam definitely keeps him grounded.
Yeah.
Tries to keep him, especially in the further movies, but keep him remembering like what the goal is, like what they're trying to accomplish, and reminding him of who he is. And we always have Pippin and Merry that are our constant reminder of what hobbits are before and will be probably after this journey. But I also think that can aid in helping Elijah Wood, Frodo, staying grounded to that version of hobbits before this journey. So I think all the hobbits are necessary, because a lot of people have a problem with there being 3 hobbits that follow him.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I don't have a problem with that. I think they all are important.
I think they definitely do balance. I think Sam and Frodo really balance each other out more than anything else. And then when you think of, in the books, Sam is Frodo's gardener in the book. Sam's father had been the Baggins gardener for years before Sam was. But there was almost like this great relationship of respect that Sam had for Frodo being a Baggins. That they, in the books, they didn't develop a friendship. In the movies, they're like tight. They're like best friends.
Yeah.
In the books, they didn't develop their friendship until after they had set out on their journey. In the books, there's actually instances where Sam acts more like a servant than he does a friend. Like he even refers to Frodo as master a few times in the books before their friendship developed. I definitely do prefer their relationship in the movies Then the book's like ain't nobody gonna dog on my boy Sam.
Yeah.
Like Sam is like peak character. Like it doesn't get any better than Sam in my opinion.
No, I agree. And I think one of the things I wanted to point out about Merry and Pippin too is, like the dragon fireworks scene and them trying to light a fire when they're on the run in the woods
Mhm.
and Frodo puts it out. Like, what are you doing? They do these like immature things.
Right,
And
because they have no understanding of the world.
yeah, but it also achieves communicating to the audience that these are things they can't be doing and why.
Yep.
And it kind of takes away some heat from Gandalf, who kind of comes off as the dickhead father figure who's always telling him, like, no, So it's nice to have them kind of stepping in and doing these dumb things. And someone else besides Gandalf is like, no, we can't be doing that, or it. I don't know. Because for me, I wouldn't think like, oh, you can't have a fire right now. I would want to
Right.
I'd want to have a fire.
Yeah, he wakes up and they're like just some nice smoked sausages. Like, and it's just like, what are you doing? Like, and it's like it just goes to show again that like they truly don't understand how dangerous the world is.
Yeah.
And like what's going on. And like as far as like, to talk about Gandalf for a second. So like the thing about Gandalf is like he's, and I know Dima, you're not gonna know what it is, but Gandalf is an Astari, right? Like he is like if you look at the lore of what Lord of the Rings is, and their like structure of like their like God essentially, like who created the world in Lord of the Rings, right? Gandalf is like akin to that of like an angel essentially being sent to like Middle Earth to like fight evil and things like that. But there were very specific things like Gandalf could teleport, right? Like he could like do all kinds of crazy magical stuff, but he was like specifically forbidden from doing certain things. We got to let the peoples of Middle Earth conquer evil on their own, all that good stuff. So like getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but like when Gandalf dies in the Mines of Moria, right? Like Dima, you finished the movie, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure. You never know with you. So like when Gandalf dies in the Mines of Moria, right? He doesn't die. He like they just see him fall. Like that's it. All that good stuff. Mm-hmm. So for like the hobbits, right? That's like, oh no, my granddad just fell down the hole. Like, like that's essentially what it's like for them. But for Legolas, Boromir, Gimli, Aragorn, for those people who know what Gandalf is and who Gandalf is, that's like watching Jesus die. Like as far as like power levels of concern, like Gandalf is like on par with Morgoth, and who was like Sauron's master in like the First Age, right? Like Gandalf is a powerful being who is limited in his usage of power while he's in Middle Earth. Like I said, seeing him die is like there's almost like no, like what the fuck are we gonna do now? Like what hope is there now?
Yeah,
essentially. So you gotta bear that in mind when you watch that scene. The next time you watch that movie, you have to look at it like that. Like, oh shit, like that's Jesus dying, y'all.
So is that what he was? Because I was going to ask you about that specifically. When he's standing there in front of that demonic creature, I don't know what it's called.
The Balrog, yep.
Okay, and he says, "You shall not pass," and all that, and then he says, "I serve the great fire." What is he referring to?
Secret Service of the Flame of Honor. It's I don't want to like delve too, because like realistically, it would absolutely freaking like I would get on. Like we're gonna need a couple more hours if we're gonna go this deep. But it's just like, let's just say something Gandalf could do, huh? Like we'll get wildly deep into this if I need to. But it's just like.
So we could save that maybe for the last movie.
Yeah, let's save that. Let's do a whole episode just on Gandalf. And we'll probably have enough time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because there's things like that where if you haven't read the books, you might have some questions.
Yeah, you would definitely. Yeah,
and that's a complaint I would have is there are some things that I think they reference for people who did read a book, which is cool. But if you didn't read the book, it's like you're not really sure what's going on.
Hmm. So let's just say, to break it down in its most simplest form. So the secret fire is like power of like God, essentially. And like honor is like the Elvish word for son. And like, so Gandalf is basically referring to like his status as like a weapon of like good and light in the world, essentially. And Udon is like an Elvish word for hell, so he's essentially calling the Balrog like a servant of hell. Essentially, like if you want to get into like the bare bones, like you've scratched the surface of like what all that is. That's essentially what you're looking at.
Okay. No. All right, that works. Favorite character and why? And if you want, I'll start on this. It's
Go ahead and start, because that's an incredibly tough question.
Okay, so this is what I have to show the picture of. And actually, you know what? I will do that first.
Yeah.
Let me make sure. I have to do a screen share, which I've never done before. So
We'll see what happens.
yeah, we're gonna wing it. I don't know why I can't just drop a picture in here, but so this to me is the coolest introduction to a character in a movie. Hold on one second. Oh, I don't know if it's gonna let me do it. Hold on.
I believe in you.
I finally understand the one must simply not.
Okay.
meme.
All right. Oh, yeah. All right, I'm gonna go old school here.
Glad you understand now.
Save
Thanks,
everyone
Matt.
some. We'll see.
I live to make you happy, Matt.
All right. Let's see if I can get this
Oh.
to focus here. I said I have to go old school.
All right.
You know what I'm talking about?
So would you say that your favorite character is Strider, or is your favorite character Aragorn, or is it both?
It's Aragorn.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, I think that is the coolest introduction
Yeah.
to a character
Yes.
in cinema history.
I would agree.
Because it took absolutely no fucking effort at all. He didn't have to do a superhero landing. He didn't have to freaking kill somebody and appear behind their dead body dropping. He's sitting in the corner of this freaking pub or whatever,
He's just vibing.
smoking a pipe with his hood up, and he takes that draw, and then his eye glows, and it's like, who the fuck is that?
You just like
Mysterious.
see it in like his he's got his pipe, and you like see it like when he smokes his pipe, like you see like his eyes.
Yeah, it's
face
so
and whatnot.
cool.
Yeah.
Like it's filmed cool, but it's also just such a like they just had to be like, hey man, just sit here in this corner. We're gonna film you real quick. Just smoke that pipe.
Just hang out.
Yeah.
So like I would say like Viggo Mortensen, right, playing Aragorn is like
yes.
one of the coolest dudes on the freaking planet.
I think that is top
There's-
tier casting. Top tier.
There's 100% top tier, 100% top tier casting.
All right. Like if there was
and-
a video game where it's open world Lord of the Rings, I'd want to play as him.
Yeah, and there's
And
a
that's how I made
fun.
my decision. That was how I.
So the studio, when they were putting together the cast for Lord of the Rings, the studio had actually tapped Russell Crowe to play Aragorn.
I saw that.
And he declined the role because he felt that Peter Jackson wanted somebody else to play the role, and he didn't want to get pressured into it. And so we came up with Viggo Mortensen. And there's actually a fun video just about how cool. So like Viggo Mortensen has done so much. Like he bought like the horses that were used in Lord of the Rings, and like one of the horse instructors like really wanted one of the horses but couldn't afford like on his salary to like buy it, and he just bought the horse for him. Or like there's regular videos of him like while they're like in production, it's like okay, he finishes his scenes, he literally will like, especially when they were filming in the last parts of the movie, they're like by that lake, he'll like literally just go grab his fishing pole and he'll like in full Aragorn garb like go fish in between his filmings.
Yeah, he's just a real dude.
Just a real dude.
Yeah.
And like Aragorn too, like to touch on Aragorn for a little bit.
Mhm.
What's wild to me, and what's always kind of like not necessarily rubbed me the wrong way about his character, but what's kind of rubbed me the wrong way about Aragorn is like So like in the movies, he's like, I wouldn't necessarily call him, let's not say emo, but like he's like, he is unsure about his place in the world. He's like, oh, I like don't want to be king, and I don't want my heritage, and I'm like the heir to the kingdom of Gondor, and I don't care, kind of things. In the
Yeah.
book, Aragorn is like 100% certain of who he is as a person, and he is like, I am going to be king of Gondor one day. Like he literally, like you'll see in the books, the shards of Narsil, the sword of the king of Gondor, is just in Rivendell, but in the books, like Aragorn carries that with him. Like he is that sure of his place in the world and who he is and who he is going to be, that he like regularly carries that.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say in the 1978 animated movie, that is one thing they did a pretty good job of interpreting from the book. From my understanding, I haven't read the book, but I listened to a podcast and they were really applauding because he is confident in himself. He does carry that sword.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, in terms of a movie, I don't know if I like that version as much. I think his character is more relatable being emo, if you will.
So the reason why that Peter Jackson went with the version of Aragorn that he did was at the time, like you're talking about early 2000s, like there wasn't a huge love of like royalty, people in power, kings and queens in the world. Like there was like this huge like anti position of power, in the world, the real world. And so from my understanding, Peter Jackson was like, well, if we make him kind of, he doesn't really want to be in power, and then we put him in power, like people will like the character better, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Well, and for me,
I think worked.
I agree. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here, but not too much. It gives his character a full arc by the end of the trilogy. And that's what I really appreciate, is like it's giving him much more of an arc in this iteration of the character.
For sure.
But also just, again, the acting, the portrayal of the character is just solid, man. One of my favorite sequences in the movie is I labeled it in here. I like how I labeled this. Give me 1 second. I got so many freaking notes. Oh yeah. So it's when they're in the woods and they're running from not the orcs, but the
Uruk-hai.
Yeah, the Uruk-hai. Thank you. And good old Boromir is about to
get it.
But this is prior to that. Because I think he had just talked to Frodo and told him to run because the orcs were like, the sword glows and he knows that the Uruk-hai are coming. And I said he fucking Jon Snowed that shit. Because he did. He literally walks out. You see all the Uruk-hai just running down this hill.
Pouring out of that forest opening. And he just draws his sword.
Slow motion, drawing the sword. And I was like, yes, that is
he's
so
like
badass.
100% ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah. And so even though he has this lack of confidence in his place in this world, he has no lack of confidence in his fighting ability.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And
he is
I love that.
Like, he 100% knows how to fight. Yeah. I would give the same, like Aragorn is probably in the Fellowship of the Ring my favorite character.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
His like, especially early Strider, that like, that, like Outlander Ranger, like
Ranger of the North, the Night's Watch,
men of the land. He's like living off the land, and he's like tracking and like things like that. Like it's just it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah,
like,
it's cool.
Like you're just like, damn, dude, like that's what a man is supposed to be. Like I want to be like Aragorn.
But it's a necessary cool too. It's not just like, oh, this would be cool, let's do it. It means something. It all means something, because skipping ahead to Boromir, when he gets freaking sniped down by what's the bigger Urukai?
Lurtz
Lurtz. Thank
is
you.
the name of the. It's
Yeah.
never mentioned, but his name is Lurtz.
Okay. But when he freaking bows him down, and he's getting ready to do that final one,
Where he's
and
like
then-
standing a foot away from him, and it's like, come on, man, that's a bit over.
yeah, it's like, all right, well, who jumps in and saves him temporarily?
Aragorn.
Exactly. And it was just like, yes, like
Saves him
another.
from immediate death to like just a prolonged death.
Yeah, but their little last talk is powerful, man.
It's extreme power, and I think that in the movies you get like your emo Aragorn. I think that kind of pushed him into like kind of starting to accept like what his role in the world is going to be. And then I don't know if you've noticed or not, but so like Boromir's bracers, his like gauntlets, Aragorn takes those and wears those in honor of Boromir, like after he dies. If you never noticed that before, but if you look at what he's wearing before Boromir dies, and then him in the later movies, like he is wearing his bracers.
No,
on his arms.
to be honest, I've seen some gripe because I think Boromir dies in the second book.
Yeah, so he does die later in the books.
And people feel like they rushed his character in the movie. But for me, as a general audience member, he had an arc,
it was
and it worked.
Super powerful. And he had a complete arc. It was a little short, but he did have a complete arc.
Yeah, and I mean, you go from him trying to take the ring from Frodo, then having complete regret, and then he dies a hero. He literally is fighting to the death.
Try to save the hobbits. Yes, fought to the death to save the hobbits. They got captured anyway.
Yeah,
but he tried.
Yeah, and I don't know. The whole conversation with Aragorn saying like I would have followed you.
Yeah,
my brother, my captain, my king. Like,
yeah,
come on, man.
Yeah, that'll get you. That'll get me going. I'm gonna cry just thinking about it.
That's what I was gonna say. I think I was kind of in my feels, so I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on after that.
Oh, God,
damn, man, that's some good writing. So Dima, who's your favorite character?
I'm on the same page y'all are. I feel like
I think you're just copying because you don't have an answer. Whoever's most like Anakin Skywalker.
I actually didn't think about that, but no, I mean, kind of like you said in the beginning, just the introduction to his character and then his story arc to where he's, like you said, he's unsure of who he is as a person, and it's almost like he's doing everything he can to avoid being where he knows he needs to be as the king and take his rightful place. And then he accepts it when he realizes, that Boromir's death, especially, like, I feel like if that death had to have happened in order for Aragorn to
Aragon. Like a Pokemon.
I feel like that right there was the final nail in the coffin for him to realize, like, I need to step up and I need to be the king and accept my rightful place in this position, which was huge. I mean, and then he's just kind of a badass. Like, especially what sold me was the mysteriousness when we were first introduced to him. I thought it was a badass way to introduce a character. And
we did kind of skip over that, but like the way he just is like, I'm a friend of Gandalf. You need to trust me. And they're just like, I don't know about this guy. I do like that dynamic.
Well, they wrote it to where at least when I was watching it, I was still questioning it almost until
whether he was a good guy or not.
Yeah,
and that's the point, because it's realistic. Like,
because they don't know.
Yeah, they don't know. Like, anyone could just throw out a name, and you're like, oh, okay, I trust you 100%. Here's this ring everyone's looking for.
Yeah. But I also like Gollum because he's just like, in this movie, he's just that thing that had the ring, and you don't know what he is.
That's fair. All right.
Who he is. So it's like the mysteriousness with him as well.
Can I tell you something, Dima? I hate Gollum.
Do you? I just like him because my precious.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah, I just feel like he was always don't get me wrong, Andy Serkis is a freaking beast with the green suits and all that. He does a great job with the voice and everything, but I just don't like the character.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I understand why he's there, and I understand why he's there in the books, but yeah, I'm not a Gollum guy.
And I'll tell you, in The Hobbit, you do get to get a little origin about him.
You do.
Yeah, where Andy Serkis actually plays him as a person, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you get to see what he looked like before he got corrupted by the ring.
So he was a human?
He was like a hobbit kind of river folk, like Harfoot
River, yeah.
guy. I think they actually do refer to him as like a river folk, like similar to a hobbit.
Yeah, River Folk is how he's referred to.
Something like that. I don't mean to cut this short, gentlemen, but my wife is telling me that our dog is running down the road and she is pregnant and cannot run after him, so I have to go.
Oh, all right, man.
Thanks for hopping on.
I will. Let's pick this back up just briefly before we do the next episode.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, guys. Good to see you guys.
You too.
All right. Well, everyone, that was Matt Jones. He is definitely our expert on the Lord of the Rings, so forgive us for our ignorance going forward, but we're going to continue talking about this for a little bit.
I just realized Orlando Bloom was Legolas.
Oh, I wish Matt was still on here.
Dude, but
are you serious?
Yes, I didn't realize. I knew I recognized him, and I couldn't figure it out.
Like, how did you not know? Like, literally, the way they introduce, like, he turns around and you see his face. It's like, that's fucking Orlando Bloom.
I failed.
And that's all he needs to be. Like, because in my opinion, he plays a character that's kind of, maybe if you had to say who's not necessary, yeah, like he's got the long range combat down. Yes. Cool. In terms of context, the story and dialogue contribution.
Yeah.
But again, it's Orlando Bloom and it's cool. So I have no problems with it. But you had no idea that was Orlando Bloom.
Yeah, I failed. I'm telling you, I failed really bad. Really bad on that one.
Go. God. No. No. All right. Anyways. All right. So back on track here. Dima, what was your favorite scene in the movie?
Oh, dude, that's hard. Jesus, I honestly don't even know. I really enjoyed the battle at the end. Like that whole sequence from when Frodo's like, I'm gonna just do this on my own, I'm bouncing, to Boromir trying to take the ring, and then the orcs come, and then that entire fight sequence. But I really enjoyed when we first get introduced to Aragorn, and like that whole sequence there. I like that it was at night. I like that it was, you could almost feel the fear of the characters themselves and trying to run away whenever they realized where they were.
Yeah.
Dude, it's just, there's so many excellent scenes. If I had to pick one, it'd probably be that last battle.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say I'm pretty much with you on that. I do have an honorable mention that it was like between this and what I'm going to talk about next. But I love when they are coming down the river in the canoe, and it cuts to them peacefully paddling down the river, and it cuts to the woods, and you just see the Uruk-hai running, growling, snarling, ready to freaking murder.
Oh, that was awesome.
It's terrifying.
It is.
Yes. And that's something Peter Jackson masters in all of his movies when it comes to this, the IP of Lord of the Rings, is mixing this happiness, comedy, all that silliness with darkness and sometimes horror, like actual horror elements. You know, when we first get introduced to the Uruk-hai, where they're showing how they're being made in the war factory or whatever, they're blending orcs and humans to make these things. And they come out of that casing, and I mean, it's just terrifying. Like if you were in the woods and saw that running at you, you would die from fear.
Yes. No, I agree 100%. And it goes back to the CGI and what they put into Like,
Oh yeah,
where they
'cause
put their
all of
money,
those
it
are
was just
practical in terms of the
oh,
costumes and the
really?
makeup. It's all practical. Yeah, and
Holy shit.
that's why it looks so good.
Holy shit.
Because
That's crazy.
the CGI at the time wouldn't have held up,
Okay.
and that's
I guess
that,
that makes sense with certain parts with the CGI was like, eh.
oh yeah, you
And
can
then you
look it up
get
on
that. That
YouTube.
makes a lot of sense.
We lost our expert here on names.
Oh, Matt, you failed us.
No, but you can go on YouTube. The guy that plays Lurtz, which is the big Urukai
Yeah.
with the handprint on his
Yep.
head.
God, I
He's
love him.
kind of in charge.
Yeah.
There's the actor literally putting the suit on, talking in it, showing it, like basically just showing off how badass the practical effects are. Like,
That's
the
crazy.
makeup, the costume design. But yeah, it's a full suit.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's really cool. And pretty much, unless there's a scene with like broad warfare from the sky or something,
Mhm.
that's CGI. But
Right.
when they have an on the ground shot of orcs,
Yeah.
goblins, whatever, it's
All practical.
It's all practical.
That's insane.
And
I
it
mean,
really adds to the movie because it feels so fucking
It does.
real. And it's because it is real. Technically, like it's a real costume, it's real makeup.
Yeah.
Um,
This movie was way beyond its time.
just like Star Wars.
Yes.
And that's what I mean. For me, I think for our generation, this is equal to A New Hope.
Yeah.
I think it's right on that same level of here's this crazy world and we're making it come to the big screen somehow. And at the time in 2001, this was just like, how the fuck are they doing that?
Yeah.
And, one of the things I wanted to talk about is how, in my opinion, these movies hold up to today's standards.
No, I agree.
Like
I
you said, there
agree.
are some parts where you can tell, okay, yeah, there's a green screen background there.
But you can still do that with movies and shows and stuff being released right now.
But it still looks good.
It does.
It's not like Pierce Brosnan 007 type.
Right.
It looks good and it works because we're already, again, expected to suspend our disbelief for this world we're in. So I'm like, there's scenes in the next movie because you and I have started watching that I can't wait to talk about because there's some like blatant green screen in that. But it makes me chuckle and I'm just like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So.
But this movie also does remind me of, I think Matt said this earlier, Chronicles of Narnia, because that Arwen girl, she kind of useless, but when she was giving each of them, like, this is for you, and explaining it, and that entire sequence there right before they left that area with the elves, it reminded me of the Chronicles of Narnia, where they were talking with I forget the names and everything, but with the lion towards the end.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't watched those movies in a long time.
It's been years, yeah.
Same. To be fair, just as long as it has been since I watched these, which is why I'm really excited to be doing this.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I realized that I wrote these off when I was younger as being just cool movies.
Right.
And I should have been giving them the same respect that I've been given to Star Wars.
Well, that's the thing is, as a kid, it's really difficult to really appreciate movies, especially like people like us, where we're very much into movies, how they're made, stuff like that. Like, I feel like it's almost, you can't even appreciate it or know how to appreciate it until you're into seeing the behind the scenes stuff, seeing how it's made and, what they do, the kind of shots that they take and stuff like that. It's just, it's a masterpiece. Like, like my rating in the beginning seemed very low, and I get that, which is why I kept teetering, but there's just so much good to it. Like, I don't know. I definitely will be changing my rating at the end, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. This movie is just very well put together.
I'm going to add something going back to Gollum.
Yes.
Because I'm going through all my notes. I have so many notes, and it's not organized at all, because I was just wanting to talk from the cuff here. But I was thinking about Gollum. There was something I appreciated about him in this movie, and I just found it. It's the first time Frodo sees him. It's when they're in the mine.
Yeah.
And he has like some weird feeling, and he just kind of looks down at the rocks, and you see the shadowy silhouette of Gollum crawling on all fours.
Yes.
Gives me chills.
Yes.
It's creepy.
And that's the thing is, maybe if I see the other movies, I might not like him as much. But it's like I said earlier, it's the mysteriousness of this character and what he is that just really attracts to me. Like
Yeah.
I see that and I'm like, oh, I need to know what you are.
It's nothing against Andy Serkis. I
Right.
think the acting, the voice,
No.
the movement, it's perfect. And the
Yes.
character is what it needs to be.
Yes.
I just don't like the character.
That's fair.
And I think you're probably not meant to in a way.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I think you're meant to kind of find him annoying. Kind of like Sam. Like Sam to me is us.
Okay. Yeah.
Like Sam, and this is kind of getting into the second movie more, but Sam, you'll learn, or maybe you already have learned, does not trust Gollum. Doesn't like him because he eventually starts to work with Frodo. Gollum does.
Oh
yeah.
I
And
haven't gotten that far yet.
okay. Well, I mean, I'm sure you can assume at some point he was going to come into the fold because he's following them.
Yes.
And I won't tell you why, because that would be the spoiler. But Sam does not trust him at all. And to me, Sam is us. Like, we don't like him. We don't trust him. But yeah, that's kind of skipping ahead. So my bad on that.
I'm going to bounce, if it's cool with you, bounce to Saruman, Christopher Lee's character.
Oh, absolutely.
Just because.
Well, just to let you know, the wizard battle is my almost favorite sequence.
Oh, with him and Gandalf?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I see that.
And here's not to cut you off, but really quick, I've been listening to other podcasts and stuff about this movie. I'm really curious what Matt would say, and I'll have to remember to ask him on the next episode, just like really quick. They being hardcore Lord of the Rings fans, don't seem to appreciate that scene.
Really?
They don't think it looks good. And to me, as someone who didn't really like the wizard battles in Harry Potter, I'm like, I think that's how it should be done. In my opinion, I loved it. I thought it was epic. And it really added that you could tell they had this history, that Gandalf felt like, oh shit, things are bad. I need to go to this guy. So it establishes they have a history and he probably trusts them and he's probably very powerful.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're battling each other and it's like, holy shit, So yeah, I love that whole sequence. And I thought the way they filmed it was masterful. In my opinion. So
no,
really appreciated that scene.
Them. Yeah. But it shows how powerful Gandalf is though.
Oh yeah, because he almost matches him.
He does.
Almost.
But you can see that Saruman is definitely more powerful. And they did a great way of showing that to where you can tell that he was kind of his mentor in a way. Mm-hmm. Especially when...
And I wonder that. We'll have to ask Matt if that's true, because I kind of wondered that. If they're equals or if, for better lack of term, like at one point maybe Gandalf was a Padawan or,
Oh, yeah.
I really don't know, and you don't get that context from this movie. So...
But I mean, Christopher Lee. I mean, he's always fantastic. So
I was gonna say, one thing about this movie is I agree with all of the casting.
Oh, absolutely.
There's not one person in a spot where I'm like, you could have went with somebody else.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Like again, Orlando Bloom is the only reason I care about his character. Like, if you had someone else there, I'd be like, yeah, they're expendable.
Right.
But it's freaking Orlando Bloom. I'm like, that's badass.
Yep.
And he's good with a bow and arrow. Cool. I'm okay with that. And there is history with him. Like he is the prince of the Elven King, the son. So like he does have importance. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but when it comes to the story, he just doesn't contribute much more than protection.
Yeah. I mean, they tried to make him a little bit more than that with that flashback to where he was at that battle that we saw in the beginning and he's like, throw the ring, and the dude's like, no, but beating them out, I mean, it was cool to see like a little background with his history with the ring, but at the same time, it didn't build on his character.
Yeah,
his
yeah.
importance.
I agree. I agree. Winston, stop. Go. I had something I was going to bring up. I'm trying to remember what it was. Sorry, I got my dog distracting me right now. He's pissing me off. Winston, stop. Go. Back to God, I'm bouncing all over the place. Lurtz. Okay. Something I really wanted to highlight. So he's the head of the Urukai that kills Boromir. Jesus. Give me 1 second. I'm going to deal with my dog.
Yeah, you're good.
Winston, go.
Oh, you're in trouble.
Freaking golden retrievers.
Yeah.
He just kept doing that thing where he's like pushing my leg because he wants to come in my lap. And then he started pushing my MacBook off the table it's on. I'm just like, dude, I can't do this. I can't freaking do it. Theo's just laying there being a good boy.
Sounds about right.
Anyways, all right, I can focus now. Lurtz.
Yes.
Head of the Urukai.
Yep.
Pelton arrows.
Just
to Boromir. Dude, those arrows were thicker than a tree branch.
Were huge.
I mean, good Lord.
The fact that Boromir was able to continue fighting with two of those fuckers completely through him and sticking out shows how strong of a character he actually, like, that is impressive. One of those I would have been done. Like, this dude's got a fucking tree branch or a tree trunk just through his chest like it's nothing. And I mean, you can see he's weak from it, but he, like, his will to live was absolutely crazy.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's something I noticed in this watch through, and I don't think I've ever noticed it before. Those things are massive. And if you think about the scale of size difference between hobbits and the rest of the characters, excluding the dwarf, those things would have probably taken out their entire torso.
Yes.
And that's what I was thinking. It's like, dude, imagine if a freaking hobbit got hit with one of those. I mean, it would wreck their existence.
I will say one negative thing about that character, Lurtz.
Okay.
I don't think we got enough of him. I wish we would have seen more.
So he is what I will call the beta version of the general of the Urukai.
Oh, really?
And you'll see why.
Okay.
Because he's definitely meant to be the leader in this movie. He's the one that, speaks directly to Saruman and gets the orders. But yeah, there's more to come, Dima. That's all.
Okay.
This is the first time they've been made. Like Saruman made, like, this is nothing to do with anybody else in the movie. Like, he makes these creatures. Like, Sauron has not, like, Sauron just has orcs.
Yeah.
And Mordor. That's his bag.
Right.
But yeah, Saruman's like, let me make this freaking war party of like hybrid orcs mixed with humans that are just like wanting to eat and kill everything.
Right.
And it's terrifying.
Oh, when he licked that knife with his blood, that was such a power move. I saw that, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, but again, Aragorn didn't even seem scared of this dude.
No.
He was like, whatever, and kills him, cuts his head off.
Yeah.
Like, you're done. It's like, wow. All right. On to the next.
That whole scene.
But I appreciate that because to me, Lurtz looks like the bad guy in this movie.
Yeah,
like
he does.
The threat, and Aragorn takes him out. And it's just like, all right, if Aragorn can take him out like that, it really establishes how badass he is. So
yes.
I was okay with it.
Yeah.
I was okay with it. I want to take a second to appreciate Gimli, the dwarf. He is the only dwarf. He's almost the only dwarf who matters in all 6 movies.
Yeah.
So you will see him in The Hobbit again.
Yeah.
I really like his character.
Yeah.
I like that he is just this disgruntled little short guy who's just ready for war, and I don't know. He just looks like he has a chip on his shoulder, just the way he looks.
Yeah.
And I really like his character. Like, there's not enough of him for me to say, oh, he's my favorite. by any means, but I really do appreciate him, and I have to show him some love.
Yeah, absolutely.
When speaking about this movie.
Yes.
So
I mean, with his size, like they really made it apparent, like his size doesn't matter because he can still hang with any of these orcs or anybody else taller than him. Like
he's a badass. He's an absolute badass. You see how Theo's code just popping in my camera view here?
I didn't know what that was for a second.
It's the next dog that's about to get kicked out. The other character I want to highlight before we get into the final subject, but I'm excited. I wish Matt was here for this. Yes. But it'll still be cool to talk to you about this. Elrond, the half-breed elf human who decided to live amongst the elves.
Yes.
Played by Hugo Weaving.
Yep.
For anyone who doesn't know who he is, he played Agent Smith in the Matrix movies. Mm. And my almost favorite scene in this movie is him when they are establishing the Fellowship, and Pippin and Mary come running in like, we're in it too. Yeah. Dude, he turns like just like, where the fuck did you come from? I laughed so hard at that shot. I mean, it was just like he looked like Agent Smith, just like disgusted. I laughed so fucking hard at that. Like, he's like, I have established the Fellowship. And they're like, no, wait, there's more. And he's like, where the fuck do these things come from? So I don't know. I love that scene. And there's no other actor that could pull off that disgusted look like him. So I really appreciate that. And I'll be honest, talking about the elves could take an entire episode.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of story there. And I think Matt would agree. It's better to save that for the second episode.
Okay.
Because I feel like the elves are more... I mean, they definitely are a big part of the story in this movie, but I think they're more prevalent in the second movie.
Okay.
And I think there'd be more opportunity to discuss them.
Yeah.
And kind of give them their due, because there's no way we can cover that in our remaining time here. But so anyone listening, fret not. We're not forgetting the elves or anything that happens with them, but I just don't think we have time to really break that down right now. But I will say we get enough of the elves that I'm excited to see how they come into the fold, throughout the rest of the story. Especially Arwen, who's married to my favorite character, Aragorn. Well, I'm not really sure on the status of that, like if they're actually married or what it is. I'm kind of assuming they're married. I don't know if she's ever actually directly referred to as his wife or vice versa. But for whatever reason, I've always just thought that they were married. You know what I'm talking about, right? Liv Tyler's character? Yeah. Okay, all right.
He mentions someone. I'm trying to remember what that scene is. Aragorn talks about, like, because that pendant necklace thing that he wears.
Yeah, she gave that to him.
It's from him.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if he's just...
They show that in either the next movie. I think it is the next movie. They actually show that, how he got that. Yeah.
That's good.
And I think the second movie will probably answer my question better.
Yeah.
Because I think, like I said, I think she's more prevalent to the story in the second one, along with other elves.
I don't think they are. Because I was thinking until towards the end of the movie, I was thinking that she died.
Let me actually Google that real quick. I have this powerful tool called Google right in my hand. Arwen married to Aragorn. Oh. Apparently they are.
Oh.
Or they are going to get... I'm confused. Okay, yeah, they are going to get married.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. It's not really clear. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not really clear. It just says Aragorn eventually marries Arwen, who he meets when living with Elrond, but like he already did live with them at this point, right? Like that's where they was with the elves after Frodo gets stabbed by
They were,
the wraith. Yeah, and
unless if it's talking about something else.
I don't know. All right, to be figured out later. But either way, that's kind of proving my point. We don't really get enough in this movie to know what's going on with the elves.
Yeah.
So, because again, we're not expected to know shit. We didn't read the books. Matt read the books. Matt's
Right.
expected to know this shit, and Matt's not here.
Hmm.
All right, now my last subject that I think would be controversial with Matt, maybe. The big bad of this franchise, I have an issue with.
Hmm.
More so, like, if we're going to compare it to Star Wars again, Sauron. The big
Okay.
eye, the big
Yeah.
evil eye, the guy who had the ring of all rings, had
Yeah.
it cut off his finger, like the big bad of this franchise. I don't buy that he is evil. As a general audience member watching this movie without any context at all, pretending I know nothing about the books or anything with the lore, there's nothing in this movie that tells me he's a bad guy other than dialogue. But why am I supposed to just listen to that? Why is the big bad not being shown to me why he is the big bad?
I almost wonder if that
Well,
ring.
first, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, okay. Because, I mean, if you disagree with me, that's fine. I just, that's me personally. Like, I watched this movie and I remember thinking he looks evil.
Yeah.
He's got Mordor, which is like hell on earth.
Yeah.
He's got the orcs, which are terrifying. And then everyone talks about him. But that's my problem. Like, you know, if you're a good guitarist, you don't have to tell me. Other people don't have to tell me. If you're good at anything, I should just be able to like witness you and determine that for myself. Right?
Yep.
So if I have to be told that you're something and other things have to paint this aesthetic around you, it's hard for me to even think you matter right now.
Yeah.
And that's not taking away the fact that the ring is directly connected to him. Like it's almost his only existence right now is through
Right.
the ring. But again, in context of the story, what's the ring doing? The ring is saving Frodo.
Yeah.
It's keeping him young with selfish intentions, but selfishness isn't always evil per se.
Right.
So it's a selfish intention because keeping him young and trying to get on him to hide him from things that want to capture him. That's part of the objective of getting him back to Mordor.
Yeah.
Because the ring wants to get back to Mordor, to get back to Sauron. And I'm like, okay, I get all of that.
Mhm.
But is that evil that it wants to reconnect with itself in a physical form? Not
See,
really.
Watching the movie, I was thinking he was evil, but it's the way that it was laid out. But now
That's
I'm
how it's sold to
almost
you.
wondering if he's not evil and somehow the ring got corrupted, which is why it's looked at as evil.
Well, we get the opening monologue
Mm-hmm.
from Kate Blanchett, which is perfect because they apparently had Ian McKellen and Frodo, forget his name right now, the actor, Elijah Wood.
Yep.
They had both of them also read that opening dialogue. They ended up picking Kate Blanchett's version, which I think was a great choice.
Yeah.
But that's basically giving us the history lesson that we kind of need to understand where we're at in this point in
Right.
this world, right? Because we haven't seen the Hobbit movies yet. So, and those give really good backstory. But so we get this little history lesson. It's like, okay, there was a great war. We're just supposed to trust that the people that are white guys in silver armor are the good guys, right?
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
We don't know what their political stance is on the Earth or Middle Earth, or I
Right.
mean, we're literally just being told by a narrator, and I'm like, okay, that's cool and all, but show me why they are the good guys.
Yeah.
Show me why the bad guys are the bad guys.
Yeah.
Because all we're getting in this movie, if I'm going to generalize it, is everyone has a fear of Sauron coming back, and we got to destroy this ring because that's the only reason he's still alive at all.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but like, is your like them as the character, is their belief of him being evil because of lore as well, or did any of them actually witness him being evil?
See,
I have a hard time with movies just telling me someone's the bad guy and I'm supposed to be like, oh, okay, yeah fuck that guy.
Right.
Because to me, he looks the coolest.
Yeah.
Like when he's in his full armor, I'm like, dude, that guy's badass. Which it's really I don't even know if it's a spirit. It's like energy. He's not really a being per se, like a physical being. But whoever, that character is just cool. Looks cool. And I'm like, you put red fire behind him and he's in black armor. I'm supposed to believe. I don't know. It's just, it's trying to sell too hard to me that he's bad, which makes me question if he really is. So I think it has the opposite effect of what they go for, is what I'm saying. I also look into things way too much sometimes.
Right. I mean, I'm curious. Now that you brought that up, I'm really curious to see if you're correct or not.
Well, so here's the thing that people would argue, because I thought about like, what would somebody rebuttal? Like Matt, maybe. Okay, the influence that Sauron has on people makes them do evil things.
Right.
Sure. But is he directly making them do these things? No.
Yeah.
No. It's people who already have evil intention.
Yes. And
it's just being utilized in this newfound power that they have in taking a loyalty to Sauron and Mordor. And I don't know. There's just something about it for me that doesn't work. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know if that's going to change in the next two movies from my memory.
Right.
I don't think it ever does. If you ask me, the bad guys or the big bads are the things they didn't intend on being the big bad.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch the next two movies and see if my stance on that changes. Or maybe when I can talk to Matt about this and he puts some knowledge on me.
Right.
But like to me, Saruman is the big bad.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
That's how I saw him.
He's cooking up the Uruk-hai. He's literally cooking up this army that's better than Mordor has.
Right.
Right? Like he's actually taking Mordor's army of orcs and slapping them together with goblins and people or whatever and cooking up this whole new breed of killing machine.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like he also has influence on other characters throughout the next movie, and we see that. And to me, I'm just like, we're going to give like Saruman the credit, or?
Well, according to our Matt Jones.
What did he just say?
He says, yes, Sauron, whatever, is truly, thank you, is truly evil. No, I will not elaborate until you both watch Rings of Power.
Okay, but see, here's my problem. Is
I can't wait.
In this movie, I don't have that context. So I don't like, nothing against Matt right now, but like just in general, I don't like when anyone says, oh, well, if you reference this, this, and this.
Right.
Okay, but the picture that this movie's painting for me visually works. Like, okay, yeah, he looks bad. Seems like everyone thinks he's bad.
Right.
But is there anything being done that tells me he's actually bad?
Yeah.
Because again, the ring getting back to him, which is a physical part of him, that's not evil in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like as it's written, maybe it's different in the book, but as it's being presented to be written in this movie, I don't see that as being bad. Sure, it's a selfish intention, but I don't think it's an evil selfishness.
Right. I see what you're saying.
To want to exist again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know, I don't know.
think
I'm just
most
saying,
people
like,
would.
I have an issue with that. I really do.
Yeah.
I have to fucking read an anthology to know he's bad. Why? He's literally the bad guy of this franchise. You know, like, show me why. Sell it to me.
And
Like, dude, it should be in my fucking face, undeniable. Like,
Right.
yeah, he needs to be handled.
yeah, I feel like we should have seen
Shout
more.
out to Droga. Thanks for showing up. I just now noticed that. I don't know when he messaged us, but
Oh, did he?
oh, it was a couple minutes ago. Yeah.
Not too far behind.
Anyways, I mean,
no, you're good. I
gotta get better at this live stream thing. We got people saying shit. I'm just like ignoring them.
but I wish we would have seen more of him to see like why he's bad.
Yeah, like let me really simplify this for you and I being more Star Wars knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. In A New Hope, do you think, oh man, Darth Vader, that's a bad guy?
Yes.
Why?
Because one, I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure the first scene we see him in, the first scene we see him in, he's walking through that aircraft. I'm drawing a blank on the name, and he is slaughtering the rebels like it's nothing.
Yes.
Just killing multiple people.
Thank you.
And
like, dude, show me a fucking backstory scene of Sauron slaying hobbits in the Shire.
Yes.
Like, what did they do? They're just trying to live their, okay, cool. Evil. But no, like, he was just in a war. It's like, okay, I don't know what's going on before this war. I can watch Rings of Power and find out. Fine. But just watching this movie, I don't know what's going on in that war. I got somebody telling me, and I'm like, okay, rings were made. This one controls all the rings, so that guy's evil.
Yes.
Why?
Exactly. No,
I don't know.
I agree.
I have a gripe with it, and that's why I saved that for last, because I'm just like, that's the one thing for this movie that isn't really working for me. But it's fine because Saruman, like I said, he to me is the big bad. Like,
I agree.
The acting is perfect. The betrayal of Gandalf is great. That's a great way to really sell me on a bad guy.
Yeah.
Like when one of our main protagonists, who is probably the most powerful,
switches up,
goes to this guy and gets, but like Gandalf goes to him and he gets betrayed by him. It's like, oh yeah, fuck you, buddy. We want you gone.
I agree.
So,
oh no, I definitely agree with that. They should have given us more. Like even if they would have added it in the beginning, like before the battle that they showed with the ring getting cut off, even if they just had a little snippet of his backstory, like you said, slaughtering the hobbits. Thank you.
Yeah.
Slaughtering them, or some like random like villagers in another area. It would help. It would definitely help to show and just prove, like, yeah, you're the big bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm curious to see what they do in the next movie, and the one after.
Well, just know that Matt and I both agreed that the next movie is our favorite.
I'm very excited.
And the last movie definitely has some of my more favorite scenes out of this trilogy. But The Two Towers is just like, I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, it's getting 5 stars or 5 stones for me. On my my letterbox, it's going to get 5 stars. But all right, well, we should go ahead and wrap this up. We're a little over our time here, so I guess really quick for anyone who sticks around to the end of this will be the only time we talk about this. We, entered the Heartland International Film Festival, and we made it all the way to the end for consideration, and they did inform us yesterday that we are not going to be in it, which I have mixed feelings about, but mainly I'm excited because now that I can talk about the details, our movie was going to be locked down for at least a year, not counting the couple months it's already been locked down, because after you screen at a film festival, it can also be sent out to distributors to consider for offers to us. It can also be sent to other film festivals that will have the same restrictions on public viewing. And this is all things I had to agree to when signing up for it. So basically, it was still our movie, but if we wanted it to have all this possible exposure, we couldn't put it out for public viewing. And that kind of bummed me out because I know we didn't go into this to just let it sit on a computer. We want people to watch it.
Yeah.
So looking on the bright side, that would have been a fun experience, but I'm really excited to be able to put it back online for everybody. So be looking forward to that. We got Halloween season upon us. Mary to Crow is definitely on the spookier side of things. So it'll be a perfect time to remarket it. We are cutting a new trailer for it, and we're going to be putting it out there for you guys. And I guess we can talk about this. We thought it'd be a cool way to bring it back onto YouTube. We're going to do a live stream watch for its re-release. So if you guys want to tune in and watch the movie with Dimitri and myself and maybe ask us questions during the film, we may be more willing to answer them during that than any other time. Because I don't like talking spoilers about the movie ever, but might dive into some secrets about it and what's going on. So be looking forward to that. And we'll see you guys on next episode of Franchise Hump Day, where we'll be doing Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. So until then, see you guys.